Hey everyone, welcome back to the OnBase Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Moody, and today I'm very excited. I have two guests with me, Phil and Tina, and we're going to talk about driving growth with smarter AI and CX strategies. Thank you both for joining us today. Welcome to the show. I'm going to start with you, Tina, and then we'll kick it over to Phil. But the first question we love to ask is for you to tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my journey in digital marketing and I've come across a lot of different technology. And throughout the technology, I've identified that I really love the operations side of things. So I love getting in the back and using technology to connect processes and people. And that has gotten me to where I am today, which is really protecting the customer experience and continuing to drive technology to provide efficiency.
Awesome. And let's kick to you, Phil.
I'm less interesting. I am a senior millennial, so I'm 44 years old. I started my career back with Coca-Cola, and I went through 7 years of their management development program before I decided that consumer packaged goods was not for me. I liked not working on holidays, and I started doing things like startups, scale-ups, transformation companies. But by and large, the last 20 years, I've been running go-to-market teams of some sort and fashion, building revenue systems, which led me to TaskUs, where I do a lot of that for a lot of different companies at scale.
Outstanding. Yeah, I am 42. So, I try to explain to my kids, you can remember not having the internet and you can remember the CDs to have the internet. And then I was also coding MySpace pages. So that was how I learned web design. All the dumb things that we did to get to where we're at now. Well, we talked a lot before we hit record. I had to stop myself because we were talking about AI and how it's changing the expectations and reshaping the market. I'd love for you each to answer this, and I will just throw it out there and let you fight over who jumps in first. But why do you think leaders should prioritize rethinking their go-to-market strategies right now to stay competitive?
I'll go, Tina. You want to fast follow on that? Tina and I talk about this all the time, right? Because we have to talk to lots of different companies who are thinking about things dramatically different on one call to the other. But writ large, I think right now is a unique time where it is. You think back to the dot-com bubble, just going back to dating ourselves a little bit, right? Like the dot-com era, and then came cloud, and then the rise of SaaS. But this is a little bit different, right? It just feels a little bit more impactful, a little bit maybe more chaotic, a little Wild West. And I think leaders right now are scrambling to figure out what is the right fit and best solution for them in their spaces. And, it's like everybody's looking for a silver bullet, but there really is none. It's going to be different for everybody. And like I said, I'm hearing different answers from different people, from different companies in different spaces. It's fun. It's exciting. But if you don't like change, you're in the wrong era.
Yeah, and to follow on that is, I have experienced a lot of different technologies. I've been running operation for different kind of technologies for over 15 years now, and it changes so fast. And I feel like there's been many times where companies are like uncertain of the changes that are happening, but if they're not coming along with how things are changing and how the environment is changing, they're really, really quickly going to start falling behind. And then at some point, they're going to have to catch up. And then it's just like super chaotic. So to rethink your GTM strategy right now when AI is still kind of new and there's a lot of room to experiment and test things and do kind of like try and error, this is the perfect time to rethink how you can start incorporating the AI into the GTM strategies.
Perfect. And yeah, the next question, I want you both to jump in. And Tina, we'll start with you. You talked about ops earlier too. I think there's a lot of parallels to how things are changing here. But what are some of the biggest misconceptions organizations have about using AI in sales? And how do we avoid those? And I'll preface that before we jump into that. I will bring it back to just to make sure I don't ramble. But we've seen the billboards for AI SDRs and AI sellers, and you've seen the LinkedIn post of all the guides to book all the meetings automatically, right? Like I think sometimes we're sold a false bill of goods in some of these instances. Maybe we're not, but I'd love for you to cover what you think are those misconceptions and how we make sure we can avoid them for sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil said this a little bit earlier. I think the biggest misconception is that AI is the silver bullet that's going to come in, it's going to fix everything, it's going to drive all these meetings, it's going to be so incredible, right? But the truth is that AI AI actually needs a lot of data, and it needs clean data in order to be able to drive all of that efficiency and be able to do all those things that we want it to do. And so if the CRM is super messy, if sales is not following the processes that are in place right now, if they're not putting in their activities, then all the AI is going to do is just amplify this dysfunction that's happening right now. It's not going to be able to deliver all of the things that we expect it to if the data just isn't there for it to be able to like learn and get feedback from it. And that's the other misconception I think that is out there about AI is that AI runs on its own. Like you just turn it on, it's just going to do its thing. It's going to be so magical. But in operations, we know that actually AI needs humans in the loop. It needs humans to give it feedback. It needs it for training. The AI needs a lot of data and a lot of feedback. And humans in the loop help the AI learn and get better at the things that we want it to do. So those are my two big misconceptions that I see out there. Clean data, and you definitely need a human to help make that AI run efficiently.
What about you, Phil? You seen any other ones?
She just opened like 5 Pandora's boxes in that one comment. I just kind of want to build on what she said. And I think the data is critical, right? So we've been training AI models for companies before AI was the hottest topic around, right? At our company, we're fortunate to serve in that paradigm right now. But she just said data is critical. You cannot just like put it into a black hole and it'll figure it out. Maybe it'll like take some like learnings from if it's like trained on some other person's models, but like it doesn't know your product, doesn't know your customer base. You have to teach it that. And as great as CRM is, like how many of us have struggled just getting salespeople to put in call notes and things of that nature. God forbid if you're out there in the wilderness and you haven't got any call recordings to train it on, like you need some data pool, data lake to teach this thing to utilize the power that it can have. The other thing, though, I think Tina also aptly said was like, has to be a forcing function for you. If you have not built out your CX journey, if you have not thought about every step in your go-to-market process, how do you really know where you should be applying AI to enhance and up-level things that are working or fix things that aren't? So I think it forces us as revenue leaders to really step back, kind of take a zero-based approach to, Chris, we were talking about before we hit record, right? Like a lot of people just have to step back and say, if I were to rebuild this thing all over again from the ground up, what would it look like? I think that's a healthy exercise. Go to Aspen for a couple of days with your C-suite and go get that done. Like this is a great time to do it. And then add AI into that. I think that's really going to empower the orgs of the future, not the ones who are just trying to slap it in because I got to make something work for the next board meeting.
Yeah, definitely not a bolt on. I'm with you on that. And, one thing that comes up a lot, Phil, I'll kick this one to you and then Tina, I have a different question for you. But for AI adoption, we've often seen concerns about losing the human touch. And I know that that's a differentiator for some of the content-driven AI platforms to say you can keep your brand voice and the authenticity. But I'm curious how you've both seen organizations maintain authentic customer connections while they continue to automate and embrace more AI. So how do we make sure we don't lose that personal touch?
Number one, I think you've got to start by actually knowing your customer. So understand what they really want. Are they going to want to hear an AI voice generated thing when they call in on your 800 number? Are they going to want to interact with an AI chatbot? Does your product fit to that ICP? Maybe generationally, there's a difference. You've got to really think about like where this should be applied to not interrupt that workflow. The other thing I think, in terms of what we've been seeing at our company is it's not necessarily replacing human labor. It's changing and evolving the way that labor takes place and actually allowing for humans to do more strategic, more interesting work and kind of deflect what we used to call like deflection of menial, administrative, quick Q&A kind of knowledge-based stuff that doesn't need a human operator to solve for. And, we just said, senior millennials, we're okay with looking it up on our own and watching the 2-minute YouTube video to like figure out how to fix it ourselves. We're cool with that, right? Like, again, some generational changes might be there, but, I think it's allowing now, we're seeing shifts in investment strategies for companies to take what was an allocation and budget line for their human go-to-market capabilities and invest that into better serving and understanding enterprise customers or emerging accounts, right? And just triaging the rest with some level of AI So I think there's like a scalability, almost like a lever or knob that you kind of tune in and to where how often you apply AI to make sure that you're serving your customers in the best way, at least for now. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? But for now, that's how I see it playing out for at least the next few months.
Perfect. And Tina, I'm curious about alignment. You talked about the changing go-to-market strategy, and this might be a case where Phil was saying some things we don't have to embrace as much AI. But I'm curious with alignment. It's always difficult. I think we don't normally talk enough to each other across all departments. But what are some of the examples or routines or shared KPIs that you think are helping to bring sales, marketing, and customer success together?
Yeah, alignment is a really big topic. I've talked about alignment a lot at a couple of conferences. And so marketing and sales alignment is always crucial because, things are always kind of changing and the two different departments are doing different things. And the missing point is always like that constant communication, but really the communication has to be speaking the same language. And then like making sure that there's a common KPI that we can all like rally again so that we can work together to meet our respective goals. So, my main points about alignment have always been opportunity and pipeline data. So use the opportunity and pipeline data to speak the same language so that you can accomplish the same goals. But it's not just about the revenue itself. It's taking a deeper dive into that data and then being able to tell stories about it. Like what kind of trends are we seeing? What do we see is working? Phil said that earlier, like understanding your customer and the journey that they're taking so that you can make that sales funnel from like end to end. You can use personalization. You can use like all of these different touch points to really make sure you're making an impact. And if marketing and sales and customer service aren't looking at the same data together, then they're always going to be thinking about the strategy differently. They're going to think that, marketing's just thinking about MQLs and sales is like not following up on these MQLs and, customer service is not doing the upselling that we wanted to. But it's because we're all looking at different data and we're not speaking the same language, even though we're trying to go after the same goals. So really aligning on the data is key. And I will share my favorite ritual, my favorite tip about driving that alignment is creating customer journeys. So from end to end, showing what a real customer journey looks like. It's awesome to see like, hey, we've all driven like X amount of revenue. It's so awesome. But when you break it down to one customer and then you see, hey, this customer like engaged with these ads. They came to this event. They downloaded this piece of content. Sales reached out here and here and here. And here's the things that worked and didn't work. Then you can rally the whole company around it. The subject matter experts see how their content is working. Marketing sees like all their strategies working. Sales sees how they're coming into the play and what's being effective. And so everyone can rally around this customer journey end to end. And that's what you can then use to start talking about like, how do we scale this out? How do we now work together to make this even bigger and better? And how do we all continue growing our revenue in this way? And here's like how you all impact this journey and how we all work together to accomplish that.
Awesome. I love that. I'm curious, the customer journey, that's so much fun. In my head, I see the GIF or the meme, all the Post-its and the lines and the yarn and the push pins, right? Like, well, this led to this because it's never linear. So I love that.
Sure.
What about if we move higher up in the funnel when we're talking about the lead, where we hit on this before we hit record too? Sales is used to catching the leads, right? Like, give me the hot ones. Are you seeing any examples where intelligent lead scoring and AI tools are starting to change how sales works leads? And if so, what are your favorite examples that you've seen? And we could start with you, Tina, and Phil, if you have anything on this one you can jump into.
Yeah. So, what's funny? When Salesforce first introduced the Einstein behavioral and lead scoring, it was like, it seemed like so long ago. And I remember within like the community, everybody was so like, I don't know about it, because we have this like, crazy, like really like complex lead scoring model that like all these people sat in a room and they defined like what touch points are going to get how many points, and when I went ahead and I implemented it, I was just so pleasantly surprised by how well the AI did, because the AI just took the objective out of lead scoring. So yeah, all of these people sat in a room and they were like, yeah, this white paper is going to get 10 points. And then this event is going to get 50 points. But that's just like us thinking that these are the touch points that are really valuable. The AI doesn't think about it. The AI, what it did, it just looked at all the data it had available in the CRM. It looked at all the touch points. It looked at the sales touch points. It looked at what touch points kept showing up when deals were getting closed. And so it gave the importance on these touch points based on what continued to show up, what was really working towards getting to that closed deal. And I just thought that like that was really fascinating. And it makes so much sense because things are always changing in the market. We know that customer journey is always changing. We know that like customers are coming in from all kinds of different angles. And it's really hard for us to really say like this white paper is so valuable when different customers have different things that they value. So letting the AI execute on it, crunch all the numbers and take all the data into consideration and then score the leads based on that, I think was just like brilliant. And when we implemented it, we saw this great change in the AI surfacing the hot leads that were really ready at this point to convert and talk to someone in sales. And our BDR team, they just loved it. They used this lead score, and it really helped them drive efficiency in like how they're following up. They could get out more personalized messages because they knew that they had less people that they were following up on based on knowing that these are the people in the market right now. And we saw a 30% increase in our conversions. So I'm all for the AI in lead scoring and letting the AI crunch the numbers and who's really interested right now based on all the signals that it has in front of it.
Yeah. I love that. And Phil, I'm going to kick this into you, but I envision the demand gen leaders slouched over. That was a bit of a gut punch, right? We've been in the room, we figured out the point system, we've all done the whiteboard exercise, the spreadsheet exercise. So that's just one example of a process that could completely change with AI. So I'm curious what challenges you're seeing across all of your accounts that you're helping when teams are facing AI-driven processes and they're coming in and being introduced. How do you overcome the roadblocks that could exist with traditional process, or we've always done it this way, or sales has always worked this way, to really unlock that value we can get through driving things with AI?
Yeah, one of the best things you can do for your frontline sellers is just make things easy for them, right? Don't make them hunt for it. Don't make them try to go figure out the algorithm. Give them the information on a silver platter and let them go do what they do. But I will say, if it's of any comfort to any of the listeners of this podcast, there are some blue chip stocks out there that have not even gotten to level 1 of lead scoring yet, which is like firmographic, demographic information, and then trying to score that. You start there. But one of the best things about AI is, and particularly for sellers, is it can do a lot of deep cuts on your ICP, right? So like you got to start thinking into level 2. It's not just, does this person have a certain title and they have this certain function? It's really, who is that person? So now it's like all the traits that a great seller has, and being able to like understand and look across the room, and is this person analytical, or are they relationship based, or are they cautious? All those kind of like personographic data points that a good seller can just like pick up on instinctively. Now, in not every case, but in a lot of cases, if you let AI do its thing, it can extract and understand like, okay, we need to present the information about this product in this way at this kind of meeting. You just have to prompt it the right way. So I think one of the best things for organizations to do right now is to get their workforce just AI native. And it's going to take some effort, because you're going to have early adopters, you're going to have those who resist, and you're just going to have those who wish they could get started but don't even know how. You're going to have to handhold. It's going to be a process. I think, personally, I think back to like 12 years ago when I joined like an old school media company, right? Selling print ads in magazines. We're going through the digital revolution. The amount of work it took over 2 or 3 years to get that workforce just to understand digital tools, like the emerging digital ads and things like that. It's just the same kind of, it feels very much the same way. So best thing you do is get everybody AI native, so that when you do roll out these process changes that have AI embedded in them, it's not going to look like it's written in a completely foreign language to them.
I love that one a lot. Let's build on the AI native notion there because that's actionable. We could start that immediately for both of you. We're going to start with Phil and then we'll kick to you, Tina. But for the leaders tuning in today that need something actionable that they can start working on immediately to improve pipeline, elevate that customer experience so we can nail the customer journeys, Tina, on our whiteboard. Let's call it a whiteboard. I don't know what we call it digitally, digital whiteboard. But as we're embracing more AI in our go-to-market strategy, what are some of those actionable steps? And you hit on AI native, Phil, so I think that's a great one we can put on the list. What else would you recommend? And then we'll pass to Tina.
Yeah, I think just going out there and understanding what are all the different tools and use cases that are available to you and being familiar with that first. I mean, there's still as revenue, I'm not preaching out there like this is for me too. There's still a lot to learn in terms of what tools are even out there, right? Like you think of that little cartoon of like the medieval sword fighter guy and he's about to go into battle and there's a machine gun salesman over here and he's like, but wait, I don't have time to talk to you. I've got a battle. Like go figure out like what ammo you have because there's a lot of cool stuff. Don't be afraid to take demos and meetings. I would encourage people, every SDR out there listening, please don't blow me up for saying this, but I encourage you to take like a demo a week and just learn. You be honest, like just tell them you're wanting to learn more about products and tools and you're just exploring the landscape. You could start with some of the bigger, larger, sales enablement companies that are out there now, what they're doing, but keep up to date. What you thought you knew about familiar tools even a year ago is now expired info. So like learn up. Start with the tools. Then there's coursework that you can go take out there that you can research on your own. There's still a little bit of black hole in terms of like certifications and like trainers out there for AI. Again, because everybody's trying to learn. So nobody's an expert. So also give yourself a little reprieve. You don't have to know everything, but before you like force your sales force to do something, go out and learn what maybe is the best thing for you first so that you can teach downstream. So Tina, I don't know if you have anything to build on that, but yeah, I'm sure you do.
I definitely want to add the data hygiene part. I think if you don't yet have a good data strategy, this is the time where you absolutely have to have one, and you should start one right away. Before I implemented the AI lead scoring model, we had to go through this huge data cleansing from our CRM so that the AI could draw some meaningful insights for us and could really look at the right leads and be able to like pick out real gems for us. And not just that, we had to make sure that it did do that so that we can build trust with our sales team that we were giving them the right kind of leads. And so the data hygiene and having good data strategies is really important. And I would say that's like the first action to take is figure out what that is, make sure that you have rigor around it, standardization, and you really understand like what is keeping your data clean. I would say that's number one, or like how you enhance your data, right? You got to have more data so that the AI can do better things. So data enhancement should be part of that strategy. And the other one is just experimentation. Like, we've talked about this before. Like at this point, almost every tool out there has some kind of AI feature or capability. And so don't be afraid. Turn it on, try it out, test it out, and kind of like figure out what are some of the different use cases that you can use for it. But definitely just start experimenting with it. And the more you experiment with it, I think the more open you're going to get to using AI, and you're going to figure out some really creative ways to incorporate it into your day-to-day so that you can drive more efficiency with the things that you love to do, and then using the AI to help you with some of the things that you might be struggling with on a day-to-day.
Great suggestions. I love that. I have a couple very quick questions before we get into the really fast one. I call that the lightning round, right? At the very end. But Phil, one more quick one from you. How do you utilize sales performance metrics to adapt your sales strategies in real time?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things you have to understand is you can metric everything to death, and all you're going to end up with at the end of the quarter is a pretty little dashboard that told you nothing. You really have to understand what you're trying to drive at. So if customer acquisition is your aim, or if it's customer retention, just find out what your North Star metric is, and don't just align your sales team and the sales team's comp plan to that. Get the entire go-to-market apparatus lined up around that. That includes marketing. Like Tina was talking about busting down silos. Marketing should not just be part of the classic acquisition funnel, they have to be part of that bow tie model end to end, right? So this is a moment in time, I think, with all the dynamics going on in the background, where you can really evolve the thought around what go to market is in the first place, not these like independent little silos of teams, but how do I apply these different metrics and really focus on the metrics that matter, dashboard those, get everybody aligned on what those metrics are, and then push hard on fast on those. Don't be afraid to like this is an old editor's trick, right? When you're like writing an article or something like that, it's like first kill all your darlings. Don't be afraid to leave some metrics on the chopping block that just might not matter or just might not be the core movers. Those kind of like vanity metrics, like, hold time or like that's all well and good, but like at the end of the day, keep your customer and the customer journey map that you built that we talked about earlier at the core and build the metrics around that, and then build tiers and layers on top of that. Otherwise, your sale, you're going to ask for what you get. If you need to ramp up calls, you're going to get a bunch of calls, but not a lot of performance, right? Like the sales team's going to give it to you if you ask for it, but it might not be the quality you want. So, but if you're focused on tier ones first, drive those. Tier twos can happen later. You can start to do fine tuning later, but that's my biggest advice for anybody thinking about KPIs is keep it simple, stupid, focus on the metrics that matter, drive hard on those, align your organization to that, and then you can build on top of that foundation. And that's how you'll get those incremental improvements over.
Kill your darlings. I'm going to bring you into Game of Thrones, even episode 1. There's someone you think is the main character, and then it's like dead. And then we're not going to talk about the Red Wedding. Okay, Tina, very quick one for you. What do you think is the single biggest challenge in marketing today?
Yeah, so tough.
That was a brutal one, Chris.
Yeah, I know. It's one of restraint. You can only pick one thing, but you don't even have to elaborate. You can just say, "Here's the toughest thing."
Well, I will elaborate on this one. So I have had the honor of talking at a couple of industry events now, and afterwards I'll get people come to me and they tell me, "Oh yeah, this really resonates with me. We're really struggling with this," and it is always alignment between marketing and sales. There's still some silos. There's still some bridges that need to be building. There's a lot of trust that needs to be built up. And I feel like with the AI SDRs out there, it's become even a little bit of a bigger topic. Like there's some fear, between the different teams of how marketing might implement the AI SDR. So I think that's still one that is a big pain point that needs, that's a big challenge for B2B marketers.
Great answer. See, she crushed it, Phil. See, she was good.
I'm not worried about it. I was
All right. This is the lightning round. So think of this Family Feud. Even if you want to shout them same time, it's okay. Or you can pitter patter, take turns. I have a couple quick questions to close this out. We like to ask them on every single episode to try to compile lots of cool recommendations. The first, what are your favorite tools or technology you're using today?
Say lean data. I love lean data. Super customizable. Like you can route leads, you can enhance your data. It keeps your data clean. It does so many things. I just absolutely love lean data.
Some question for me. Favorite. I still love Zoom Info. For me, everything starts at data and then goes from there. And there's a lot of different solutions for different categories that I have favorites for. If you don't have a good data vendor helping you with some of like the block and tackle things, we've talked about it at length on the podcast, so particularly brought it up. Your goose is cooked. I mean, you're going to throw bad process on top of bad data and bad things will happen. Start with that one or one of the ilk, but that's a good blue chip to trust on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, we have tons of joint customers for that reason, right? The more the merrier. Okay, what about good reads? Now, we're generous with reads. It can be book, blog, newsletter, podcast. What inspires you?
So I love Atomic Habits, and James Clear also has a newsletter. It's a really quick read. It asks very insightful questions. So that's my favorite one right now.
Nothing new for me. Typical millennial, I do very little reading anymore. It's a lot of like podcast listening and quick snippets and short form of all kinds. But I do go back to one I got in college. It's classic Robert Cialdini, Influence, Science, and Practice. The salesperson in me always comes back to how do I understand the human at the end of the line? How do I understand the customer? What makes them tick? What's in our reptile brains that make us do X, Y, and Z? always super fascinating to me. And it's that fine line between influence and manipulation that sometimes salespeople walk, right? So your ethic base has to be really strong, but I'm always fascinated with what makes people tick. Anecdotally, I saw like this really funny like meme, I think. It had like two profiles. Both people were 65 years old, both lived in the UK, both were multimillionaires, both went through marriages and divorces. If you were a lead score then they probably had the same score, but how you treat those people would be very different way because one person was King Charles and one person was Ozzy Osbourne. So coming back and then really understand the psychology of ICP formation, marketing, and sales can take you a very long way in your career.
Yeah, two timeless examples there by both of you. Great job. Last one before we get to the most important question of all. Same question, but for people. Who inspires you in the B2B space?
So I love Stephen Spencer. He runs a podcast called Marketing Speak, and he has all kinds of different people that come on. But it comes from an SEO background. So he's always thinking about like people behavior and how it's like impacting the way that people are searching and looking for things. So I find him very fascinating and inspirational. And I do love Sarah Magner. You know, she's like the RevOps guru out there. She's always sharing tips, and she's a great follow and super inspirational.
Yeah, I like Jason Limkin a lot. Big SaaStr fan. In that space. I think he's just really plugged in, has a lot of interesting guests, very consumable information. I also like some of the new kids on LinkedIn Content Warriors. There's a guy, Brian Lamana, Kyle Coleman, of course, very cool to follow and listen to. So anybody that's actually giving very practical advice and not, theologian style, I love that because look, as a go-to-market leader, you're busy. You need to consume information very fast. And I just don't have a lot of time for big poetic stories. Like, give me the information fast and furious and let me go use it, right? So I love the stuff like that.
Perfect. And Phil, based on that, the brevity, maybe you answer the very last question. How can everyone get in touch with both of you after this episode?
Me? Yeah. Honestly, you can find me pretty easily. My email is phil.hernandez@taskus.com. I do a lot of go-to-market services solutions for companies looking to outsource their teams, and also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find there. And quick search, you'll find me. My LinkedIn's usually up to date.
Awesome. And what about you, Tina?
Yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. And I love following people who are kind of in the similar space to just learn from them. So I'm always looking for new connections.
Awesome. Well, you both crushed it. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. You did a great job of the pitter patter, sharing, not talking over each other. So I see the alignment here.
Tina's my secret weapon. Like, she and I work very closely together, and we're always picking each other's brains and going to conferences. So we've fast become very good friends in the last year and a half or so.
Standing. Well, thank you both. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you,
too,
Chris.
Chris.
Bye.